6 more cabins are broken into.
In Mammoth Lakes, California,
He came right to our window.
one bear turns everything upside down.
The bear comes up, breaks in windows, breaks in doors.
Only the man they call the Bear Whisperer knows just how far this bear will go.
That just gave me shivers up my spine, that she could be alive and wreak havoc like she did a year ago.
Are you all right, ma'am?
It's like a crazed animal at this point.
What it did to our community, what it did to me, it was all just shattering.
And in the town that loves its bears,
It's all right, good girl.
no one thought it would come to this. There she is.
Got a good shot at it, right?
Mammoth Lakes, a mountain resort town located in the middle of some of California's last true wilderness.
We happen to live in God's country. We're a day's walk from Yosemite. It's just paradise up here, and so the people know it, and the bears know it too.
The Mammoth Lakes area is very popular with black bears, and the residents down there have really taken to these bears. They feel that those are their bears, and rightfully so. I mean, they learn to live with these bears, and they become residents of the community just as, you know, the humans that live in the area are.
As the town's wildlife patrol officer, it's Steve Searle's job to teach bears to be respectful of people and their houses. A bear that encroaches on either can end up being killed by authorities.
No. Move away.
He relates to bears and is able to convince them not to get into people's territory in a dangerous way. He teaches them how to live with people, and he's been teaching people how to live with bears.
From the minute the bears emerge from winter hibernation, Steve is on patrol.
They've lost approximately 50 to 60% of their body weight surviving through the winter. So when they wake up in the spring, they're motivated entirely by food. They will wake up in the morning and they spend their entire day searching out food sources.
The cycle of life that we see in Mammoth, the sows and cubs, the lessers, come in the very first in the spring for the food sources that are available in town.
They're welcome in Mammoth, as long as they don't forget their bears.
They're about 200 yards from my house. It's one of my favorite places in town. And the bears come here and hang out. They have everything they need: safety, food, water, and habitat.
Natural food is good. Human food is bad. It's especially important to keep mothers, called sows, away from people food.
Get out of there! Hey, get out of there! You naughty bear! None of that!
Sows teach their cubs how to eat and how to forage in a very peculiar way. The sow will eat an item, and then at the same time, the cub is watching what the sow is eating. The cub will come over to the sow and will sniff her breath. And since they have such an immense sense of smell, that registers in their brain in memory banks that whatever mom just ate must be good food. And they'll recall on that memory at a later date and time to identify whether something's food or not.
If a cub's memory banks register people food as good, it won't know how to find natural food and won't know how to teach its own cubs down the line.
The longer we work with them and keep them alive, the smarter they get and the more learned they are about the ways of man. Stay out of traffic, stay out of cabins, stay out of garages, stay out of cars.
But each year, there are some bears who just don't get it. Every morning, Steve checks on the bears in town to make sure they're okay. Today, he is one step behind a young sow and her cub.
Hello. Hi, good girl. Knowing the topography and geography of the area and where the roads lie, I could see that the bears were going to cross Lake Mary Road, and so I went up there and waited for them so that they could maybe cross a little bit safer. Cars do get going pretty fast right there. Here we go, here we go. As far as doing traffic control for my bears, it happens, you know, on a regular basis. I wish I could be there every time a bear crosses the road. She's right here, right on top. 99% of the time they cross safely. The other times, it's most often fatal. It's all right. It's all right. There you go. Go get your baby. There you go. There you go. Pick her up. Let's go. Come on.
But the sow doesn't bring the cub back with her. Something's caught her attention.
Where are you going? She was absolutely going somewhere. She wasn't fooling around. You could really see she had her nose up in the air and was, you know, on a mission.
20 minutes later,
All right, so you're in 9, the Bears are at 5. I'll be en route right now. Thank you very much for calling.
Steve finds out exactly where the two were headed.
Mono 1, Wildlife 1.
Wildlife 1, Mono 1.
Can you show me code 4, 10-6, Lower Falls Tract?
Code 4, 10-6, Lower Falls Tract.
The sow and cub were just trying to break into a cabin, and so we're going to respond up here and see if it's so that she's trying to bust in would be a bad thing. Hi. Good, how are you, sir? And you saw the bears?
Oh yeah, it was a mama and a very young cub.
These old cabins up here, you know, close to 100 years old, they were built as fishing homes. They're all single pane windows. They're easy to break into. It's kind of a target-rich environment.
Hello?
Did I see by the sow's body posturing and her nose in the air that she was on her way to commit a misdemeanor? Did I know she was going to break up a door jamb today? No, I'm not that good.
For now, there's not much Steve can do. The bears have left the area.
I need to catch them red-handed, and anything 5 minutes or longer after the act, I'll just pass on it. The bear won't have a clue what's going on, and I don't roll that way.
Steve will work with the bear for any number of reasons.
Get out of there!
He uses non-lethal techniques to keep them away from crowds,
You bad bear!
to move them out of dangerous areas, and to let them know where they can and cannot search for food.
Get out of there! You bad bear! I have dozens of tools at my disposal, everything from doing nothing and observing through pepper spray, pyrotechnics, flashbang devices, audio devices, things that smell, things that whistle, impact devices, rubber bullets. Every situation's different, and my job is to do the very best thing I can for the people and the bears.
Wildlife 1, 4425.
Copy that, thank you.
Less than 24 hours after the sow and cub's attempted break-in, there's another bear report. This time, the bear got in.
I have no tolerance for busting up homes. It really pisses me off when bears do this. Did you folks just get here?
We just got here. I saw glass. I looked at the window, it was broken. I'm like, that's odd. I thought we were robbed. The kitchen is completely trashed. Food everywhere, the refrigerator open, banged up, soda cans, things I didn't even know what they were, ripped open, tons of bite marks.
I can see the slobber from the bear, and so you can pretty much estimate, you know, just from my height, the height of the bear on this single pane window. It's a front paw print and a rear paw print. It's going to be an adult bear with this set right here. And if you look, the bear came in and out more than once. And unfortunately, I'm guessing that's a cub print right there.
97, A-frame like.
A bear bringing her cub into this house. It's just terrible. The bear was in here more than once. Stealing is a bad thing. Mothers teach their bears, and teaching them how to break into homes will just lead to them getting killed.
So you think they smelled and not saw? They smelled something?
Their sense of smell is miles and miles, not just hundreds of yards. And they know whether there's pizza in the fridge or whatever. They're very, very strong power smell. Your nose is just to hold your glasses on. It doesn't even work in comparison to a bear.
Wow.
So should I be worried about the bacon in my car right now?
The bacon's got to come out of the car right now. Yeah,
Bear break-ins in Mammoth are rare. But last year, a bear named Blondie changed everything.
Blondie was responsible for 51 different entries of homes in about a half a square mile. It was expensive homes, lower-end homes, cabins, never a tent, never a trash can. She knew to walk right to the refrigerator, open the refrigerator and the freezer, and help herself.
Blondie caused so much property damage, she became headline news. Authorities had no choice. They issued a shoot-to-kill permit.
I never, ever saw that bear for the entire rest of the year, and it was just an incredible thing that the bear just disappeared off the map, never seen again.
Mono 1, Wallace 1, 97.
Now it looks like another bear with a cub is picking up where Blondie left off. Same patterns, same locations.
Woman's home alone.
10 for a copy.
A half mile from the last break-in, the sow and cub are trying to get into another home. This time, the house is occupied.
Hello? Are you all right, ma'am? Where are they at?
There's nothing out here?
No, ma'am. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right.
You can get through a window out there.
All right. Bears should not be pulling on anybody's window, especially an occupied home. I take it very seriously, to get a bear shot. I wish I got here sooner, and I would have dealt with it right then, and we're just a few minutes behind the call. It was on the ground, and it was facing you, and it was biting on your window.
And the baby was right in between all those little trees there.
All right, thank you very, very much. Mono 1, Wildlife 1. I'm gonna be 98 from the call, report taken. The bears are UTL, but I'll be patrolling the area for the next hour or so.
Within a half hour, Steve gets the tip he's been hoping for.
We had a call from one of my neighbors out here and let us know that the sow and cub was lurking around again. And if I can catch her red-handed, it'd be just great. Straight up this way?
Yeah, right up the hill.
I think we're hot on her trail, and again, no offense to her, but she has been acting up a little bit, and done correctly, aversive conditioning can change her habits for life.
Copy, so.
There you go. Pardon.
Steve stays a short distance away from the bears, hoping to catch them attempting another break-in. But then, neighborhood dogs frighten the bears. The sow runs one way, the cub heads up the nearest tree. With the sow and cub separated, Steve shifts his efforts from punishing the bear to reuniting her with her cub.
We got 3 dogs on the bear right now. We got a baby cub right here at 10 feet. She can't leave the cub here. You guys could keep your dogs with you?
Yeah,
totally.
Cub is just right behind us, a little 8-pounder.
Yeah.
We have to hook them back up. She can hear you. She's on her way.
Here she comes. All right, all right. Hurry up. It's all right. Come get that cub. Go ahead. Calm her down. You're all right. Go home. Go on now. Go home. Go home. Go home. Let's go. Good dogs. Go home. Go on. Go on. Get. We almost had it down and reunite these guys. Those dogs just got loose again, which kind of irks me. But good dogs just, you know, charging after the bear, and that's what dogs do.
Finally, after 40 minutes,
Here she comes.
Lower the sows down.
Here's the baby coming down.
There you go.
Come on.
You're all right. You're okay. You're all right.
the sow and cub reach the ground, but there's still a lesson to be learned.
She was walking away at a slow speed instead of running away. Bears need to learn to be afraid of people. That's my job sometimes, is to professionally be mean to bears.
Get out of here! Go on, get!
Steve shoots at the sow, not the cub.
Go on! Get out of here! Go on!
I lit her up and gave her a rubber ball on the ass. 101, Wildlife 1. I just fired 2 different rounds on this sow out on Woodman Street. We're code 4. Just FYI, if you get somebody calling in.
They are non-lethal rubber rounds, light fields, and they work just great. It's a soft rubber, and just reach out and tap her and let her know she's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Don't be walking around midday checking windows. We'll treat you like any other perpetrator in our town.
Steve measures his success with the bears by their actions. 24 hours after shooting rubber bullets at the sow and cub, they're staying away from homes and eating their natural food in the forest. It looks like the aversive conditioning is working.
Wow, I mean, this is what it's all about. When we get them to practice more of this behavior and less human action behavior, my job is, I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
In the quiet of the forest, Steve gets his first close-up look at the sow.
These young bears are difficult to identify sometimes with them shedding out and changing colors. This one's a two-tone bear, a little bit unusual. It's a 3.5-year-old female. She came out of hibernation with 2 cubs. One died right away early in the spring, and then she was left with 1 cub. She entered at least 3 different homes while she had her cub. One of the really odd things is that the homes are all being vandalized in the daytime.
Steve begins to piece together everything he knows about this bear. It all seems eerily familiar.
The size makes sense. Her age makes sense. Every single thing indicates that it's the bear who entered all the homes. Last year, Blondie, that she could be alive and wreak havoc, that just gave me shivers up my spine. Dark head, dark legs, blonde straps and back blonde highlights. That hasn't changed much other than the blonde continues to darken, but those same basic color patterns, same age, same sex, same homes that are being broken into, Blondie never went in a single home at night. She only went in homes in the daytime, which made it even more offensive.
When Blondie first appeared, she was an orphan cub who had to learn how to survive on her own.
The bear's been staying out of trouble, but did enter this home last week through an open window. That's just terrible for a bear to learn those lessons. This bear is going to grow up to be a big, huge bear. And if we don't train him correctly from the start, then we get what we deserve. I'm sorry, buddy. Feeling good, huh? The bear just got in the habit of going into houses that were open, all soft entries, open sliding glass doors, open windows, and it would go straight to the fridge, right past the trash can, and help itself to ice cream or fine cheeses. Guava was a favorite. People weren't afraid of it. They didn't report what she was doing, and they would just shoo her out of the house. Go on, you cute bear, and keep the cookies. And so it went unchecked and unreported dozens of times.
What are you doing here? Hey, what are you doing here? You bad bear. You bad bear. No more.
It was just a really, really bad example of loving on bears too much. People just went out of their way to protect her. The bear came out of den last year and proceeded to enter homes. Again, they were all soft entries in a half a square mile. 51 times it entered homes.
Go on, get out of here.
I just could not put a stop to it. Rubber bullets, flashbang, pyrotechnics, the food reward, and the people doting over that bear outweighed me being mean to the bear. The bears left the area.
But there was another issue hampering Steve's efforts to teach Blondie. Mammoth Lakes borders federal forest land.
Steve's area of responsibility is within the 4 square miles of our town, where Steve can use all of his techniques and efforts to dissuade bears and try and change their behavior patterns.
When Blondie raided homes outside Steve's jurisdiction, he was powerless to stop the behavior.
Really, it was quite evident that Blondie was going to push the envelope until somebody had to shoot her.
A shoot-to-kill permit was issued for Blondie, but then, as if the bear could sense it, Blondie disappeared, and the shoot-to-kill permit expired.
I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to locate her or her carcass, and was unsuccessful. It was really odd, but the bear never showed up again.
Until now. And though she's broken into 3 cabins, Steve doesn't punish her. For the moment, she's not breaking any of the rules.
We reward our bears by silence and privacy for doing the right thing. It looks like she wants to suckle and feed her cub. And so we're just about to back out of here and we'll leave her alone. But she's being a good bear and it's great to see.
For 3 days, there are no reports of Blondie and her cub.
Marty, and copy Wildlife 1.
I was on patrol and the car in front of me came to an abrupt stop, so I stopped to see what the problem was. You could tell he was rattled. I walked up to the car. He wouldn't even roll the window down at first. Then he cracked it and told me that a car coming the opposite way up towards Lake Mary had just missed the mom bear and hit a cub right in front of him.
No.
Marty, how long you been here?
Just about 5 minutes. I just missed it.
The little cub got rolled behind its mom. The mom is presumably on scene. It was dragging the bear off the road, and not good at all, but we'll see if we can help a little bit. I can hear the sow and hear the cub. She's absolutely on scene, Marty. You got lethal on you?
Yes.
Yeah.
The bear was moving like 20 feet each way. You can hear it go down a little bit, come up the hill a little bit. You know, it was moving around like it was pacing back and forth, you know. Sounds like about where that pine is right
That's what I'm thinking too, Marty. You're right on top of it.
We got out spotlights and started looking right off the roadway for the bear. It was right within 5 feet of us.
She's, yeah, down to my left now. Right here, Marty. Oh.
That's your sow. All right, good girl. All right, she's got it. Hello, good bear. The cub, she's looking to her right. The cub's to her right. Hello, good girl. Oh.
Is she coming towards us or is she going down?
No, she's probably trying to revive them. Okay, okay. This is a really steep slope right here. Watch yourself now. Watch yourself. Okay. Me. Where we can't work through this brush, that bear can come through here faster than the fastest human on Earth. You need to be careful when you're dealing with an injured bear. The cub is, you know, is all right. Uh-oh. Oh. Oh. I don't hear the cub. I'm guessing it's 11:44. Oh. Oh, boy. Son of a bitch.
The cub died while we were there, and we could hear its vocalization stop.
She's mooing over a dead cub, not a live one. Shoot. I hear ya. I hear ya.
The mom was just mourning and haven't heard her sound like that before.
I can't say what she's thinking. I could only hear her wailing in grief.
Oh, girl. Oh, I wish I could help that thing more. You have a really, really anxious sow that's just lost her young, and for the safety of everyone involved, we're going to lay back off this scene. How friggin' sad.
Thanks, Steve.
I share in her grief. I've seen it go on for, you know, we're done filming, guys.
I didn't sleep at all, and the thoughts that went through my mind and the images, I replayed it a few times last night. I have personal experience of people losing their children. It will ruin the rest of your life.
All of this has been trampled down, and obviously the bear went through here.
51% of all black bears die before they're 18 months old. It is something that bears have to deal with all the time.
I don't see any blood or hair or the body of the young bear, and kind of happy for that. She must have dealt with it in her own way, and we won't have to do any body recovery today.
I see some of the most beautiful things, you know, that anyone could ever imagine. And I also see some of the most horrendous, and it can happen an hour apart. You know, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and some days suck.
Blondie disappears. Steve is now monitoring the big bears who have come into town and taken over the prime feeding areas. Like the bear who's made a local golf course his home. Steve calls him Half-Bib.
We call him that because of the big blaze on his chest. It looks like a bib. He comes out about this time every evening and enjoys the cool grass. Have a poop and a pee and a little bit of food and water. He's a no harm, no foul bear. He's never caused any problems in Mammoth.
I can't document a single 911 call that we were on with that bear.
You can set your clock by his habits, and his habits are all good habits. And we'll give him all the room he needs.
In the summer, he does try to hold space in some of the most prime habitat, and in this case, he can hold his own in the golf course and makes a good living there on the grass, the flowers, the wasps, the insects, the larvae. It's just a really rich place for food.
He's not so nervous around people, but other bears, and so his nose is constantly working, making sure that there's not other male dominant bears in the area. Tonight there's not, and so he's got the place to himself. Big guy. Big guy.
He isn't habituated, but does he know the ways of man, the traffic patterns, what time the bars close? He sure does. And he's a great example of the bears that we want to keep alive in Mammoth.
But not all bears play by the rules of Mammoth Lakes.
There's a bear in a cabin up at Twin Lakes, cabin number 4.
Here's the entry spot, and the bear went in and out a couple of times, and then just before you got here, headed up the back trail.
Just kind of ripped the side off, and looks like it hopped on the bed and went in.
Bear was in here for a while. Can you see the blonde colored hair? Could you describe him for me?
It's not a big, super mature looking bear to me, but it's not a little guy either.
She has some pictures here, Steve.
You could scroll through.
Oh no, this is Blondie.
4415, 4411.
3 weeks after Blondie's cub was killed by a car, the bear is out of control,
He came right to our window.
raiding multiple houses daily.
I looked up, and there it was by that big tree, just looking at the cabin. I said,
at
there
you,
he
huh?
is. And we know that bear. It's that young bear that's the baby was killed.
After her cub was killed, she had more free time and started a new rash of burglaries. A cub in tow is a restraint. She doesn't have that restraint anymore.
Blondie's now able to travel faster and farther. She moves outside of town back to land controlled by the federal government, the same area where she caused so much damage a year before. Steve is powerless to do anything. It's beyond his jurisdiction.
I was ordered to stand down in those areas with any type of tool that I might use on a bear.
Copy that. We'll be documenting.
I guess.
A letter was served to the city council, the police department, and to myself, stating that I was not welcome to work with bears, lethal or non-lethal, anywhere in those tracts of cabins.
But Steve isn't prohibited from being there, and he wants to monitor the situation.
Look at every one of these has got bear prints all over them from the same bear trying to push it in.
This is the 5th one on the block I know of. Not cool.
6 more cabins are broken into.
The owner of the lodge at Twin Lakes, he's had 8 or 9 entries with dogs in the house, with people in the house. This is happening, every day now.
The scene is so typical, cupboards opened, refrigerator opened, all the good sweet food gone.
I think we're up to 17 or 18 cabins now up in the Lakes Basin in probably 3/4 of a square mile.
They get pretty aggressive and pretty confident once they succeed. was not easy to shoo it away. And usually I can shoo them. And now I just feel we're all in jeopardy.
We love the bears, and we hate to see anything bad happen to them, but my view is you do everything you can, and if there's nothing else you can do, then sometimes you have to get rid of it.
What it did to our community, what it did to me, what it did to the reputation of the town, it was all just shattering. People were just horrified both ways. The people that wanted the bear killed, the people that didn't want the bear killed, the people that are in the middle of the road, the politicians. It was just absolutely insane.
Bear comes up, pulls off the shutters, breaks in windows, breaks in doors, throws things everywhere.
Don't be discouraged from picking up the phone.
Yeah, but your police cannot do anything
No.
to get rid of the bear.
If the bear breaks into that cabin and I'm in there and I shoot that bear, what happens?
Do I have that right to actually use a firearm in my home?
It's probably too late to save her now, and something needs to be worked out because we're here leaving our cabins up there vulnerable to that bear still.
We have done everything that we know, and still right now we have a road bear.
Could the bear bowl somebody over, escaping from a residence? That part was very, very possible. As hard as it is, I needed to admit defeat with that bear.
To destroy a bear, law enforcement needs what's called a depredation permit.
We had a summer home owner get a depredation permit from the California Department of Fish and Game, which is a process that allows a homeowner to either remove themselves or contract with someone to remove a nuisance animal.
She usually went in places that weren't occupied and that were shuttered up, and she would just tear the shutters off, push in the windows, and that's what made her such a dangerous bear, because there was no protection. I mean, if your shuttered cabin doesn't protect you from a bear, then you have no defense.
Steve wants to be the one to take the shot.
I have gone public asking permission to take the life of this young bear. I have a huge connection with this particular bear. I've spent countless hours dealing with this. If you're not prepared to remove a certain bear out of the population, then you shouldn't be in this line of work.
But the permit is for property outside of Mammoth city limits.
That bear is in a jurisdictional mess and is on the other side of an imaginary line that the Forest Service owns that property, and it's not within the 4 square miles of town proper, then I'm not allowed to do my work. And boy, am I pissed off.
By law, the destruction of the bear falls to federal government trappers who will capture and euthanize her. Relocation is against California Fish and Game policy.
We have multiple tools at our disposal that we can use in order to capture a wild bear. We have culvert traps or large cage traps that will put some type of a bait inside, usually a food source that bears are accustomed to.
When the bear crawls into the culvert and grabs that bait, it releases the doors and they slam shut, and then they lock, and then that bear is trapped inside the culvert trap. And, you know, typically they're euthanized with a firearm.
Bears being shot in the head in live traps bothers me, and especially when it could be prevented. Whatever happens, we should be responsible for ourselves and for our bears. That's why it says don't feed our bears instead of don't feed the bears, because they're not somebody else's bears. They're our bears, and you ought to be responsible for them, good or bad.
That night, the traps are set. Blondie never shows.
A bear is not a nocturnal bear. It only does daytime burglaries.
As every day passes, destroying her becomes a hotter issue for the community that loves its bears.
It's not black and white. There is no books written about this or laws written about this. It's to good judgment. We're all here to serve the public. And what would the public want? What would mom and dad and the normal, everyday people that aren't on scene, what would they be saying to do? Shoot. Shoot.
Steve can't do anything to save Blondie. The most he can do is help find her and make sure authorities get the right bear.
When I pulled in there, I could see that one of the cabins that was broken into last week, that the windows had been repaired. All the shutters had been torn off, the screens had torn off, the window was covered with her prints.
David 1, Wildlife 1.
Wildlife 1, 4410.
Yeah, it's breaking into another cabin now.
I'm just going to confirm with you. We got the go-ahead. We're good to go. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We have the piece of paper. The folks who own the summer homes up here, their personal safety is my responsibility. I have to do the right thing by them. And that meant that this bear needed to be killed.
Blondie has become a public safety hazard. The bear continues her rampage. But it's daytime, and the feds aren't present. Now it falls to the Mammoth Lakes Police Department to destroy her.
I just need to know where he is.
Steve.
Behind the Olson cabin. We're probably 300 yards up from where my truck is.
The more of us that are moving through here, the more noise we're going to make. So we need everybody just kind of slow down and be conscious of that.
You got a good shot at it right now.
My thoughts were to make it clean, to make it safe, and to just get the problem solved.
The bear was probably full from eating and was laying down at the base of a tree. I stayed eyes on the bear. They got locked and loaded.
We're okay. Take your time. Take your time, Karen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Second shot, yes?
Yeah. Go. Yeah, everybody stand down.
Okay, I need to talk to you.
Sure.
I was sorry that we'd gotten to the point with this animal. It's just, we have such a unique environment up here. We certainly, as human beings, have a responsibility in that, and that we allowed the animals to get to the point where they started to look for human food instead of their own.
I got a vested interest in it. My cabin's been broken into 3 times in the last 3 weeks. Okay?
I understand that,
Did you get
sir.
him?
Yeah. Yes, sir, and she's actually a she. And yes, sir,
Is that
we
the
did.
way? That's the one. We're really happy that the authorities came here and took care of this guy. It's too bad, but it's tough.
You know, they can be smart about those. Yeah. Or it might have taken her a day to go in, but, you know. California Department of Fish and Game wildlife biologists will take the carcass. They're responsible for disposing of the body.
For the time being, I've taken possession of the bear. Maybe collect our thoughts before we turn the bear over to be put in the landfill. None of this had to happen this way. It's I'm not a religious man, but I think I'm a spiritual man, and the Native Americans taught me to follow their lead and make an offering to this guy, help this guy along a little bit best we can. Mono 1, Wildlife 1.
Wildlife 1.
Can you show me 98 from the Lakes Basin?
Sounds fine.
In the summer of 2005, Johan Otter tried to save his daughter from the jaws of an angry grizzly while hiking in Montana.
It really felt like I was trying to rip my head off. And I remember thinking, okay, one more bite and I'm done.
Glacier National Park, one of America's last great wilderness areas. It's home to the nation's most feared predator, the grizzly bear. Every year, grizzlies claim the lives of people who get too close. Johan Otter and his daughter Jenna are here for a hiking vacation.
This one right here.
Right here.
Yep. See, I've got
to celebrate her graduation.
All right.
And it's kind of cool that your daughter still wants to go on a senior trip, you know, and with dad to go into the mountains.
But today's ambitious hike will test them in more ways than they can possibly imagine. Survival in this wilderness is brutal. This female grizzly is dangerous. She has 2 cubs and will attack anything that comes near them. Dr. Barry Gilbert knows just how deadly these bears can be. He himself was badly mauled by a grizzly.
Grizzly bears have the smallest young of any of the mammals. They can weigh 2 or 3 pounds when they're young, so they're really vulnerable. This is what has caused the female to evolve into being suicidally aggressive. She lays out her all for those cubs.
It's too early for other hikers to be on the trail.
I sort of had this underlying
nervousness. In the morning and the evening hours are the prime feeding times for animals, so that's when they're going to be out and about a lot more.
I gotta take a video of this.
This is beautiful.
Wow.
But Dad, we've got a long way to go. Let's keep going.
But Johan and Jenna are seasoned hikers.
The precaution I knew when hiking was just to make noise.
We knew to not be too quiet, although we didn't know how loud to actually be. We talked continuously during that time, and we made sure we looked around as much as possible.
You can run to work and then take a shower there.
So your mom wanted me to have a talk with you about keeping to your studies.
They also carry a can of bear spray. This is their only defense against a predator attack.
If I don't...
We didn't have it on our belt, it was just in the backpack. You know, really thinking that you're not going to be able to have to use that. It's not going to happen to you.
They climb higher and further away from human habitation. If anything should happen to them, Johan and Jenna are on their own. Grizzlies normally steer clear of people. They can pick up a scent from over 2 miles away. But the wind is blowing down the mountain, away from the bear.
And that would just negate the bear's best warning system, which is its nose, its sense of smell. And that's almost a perfect storm scenario.
The grizzly is now on a deadly collision course.
A surprised bear is an angry bear, and an angry bear is an aggressive bear and a dangerous bear.
So do you honestly think that you're going to be able to keep up with, practice and dance? Look at this.
High above the lake, the view is spectacular. Johan and Jenna fall silent, a mistake that could cost their lives.
There's a bend in the trail, so you can't see around it, but you don't expect anything to be around it, which I guess is a bad assumption to make. In front of me is a mother grizzly bear, followed by 2 cubs right behind her. I thought, I'm going to die.
If you turn and run, you've immediately put a hamburger sign across your back.
To save his daughter, Johan puts his own life on the line.
And it's something instinctual. It's not something you actually think about. It basically went into my thigh.
The bear bites deep into Johan's leg, again and again, right down to the bone.
It wasn't like we're holding on to my leg and just kind of being in there. No, it was kind of in-out type of thing.
If he wants to live, Johan has to break loose. But there's only one way out, down.
I decided to jump off the trail. It was about 20, 25 feet into some bushes. My eye was already bleeding or something like that at that point, so something must have gotten into my face. Because the animal went at me like this, so it must have been one of the claws.
Then I see the can of bear spray that my dad had in the side pocket of his backpack. I pick up the can, but I didn't know how to work the can. And you can't really stop and read instructions at that point.
Out of time and options, Jenna leaps into the unknown. Johan has no idea his daughter has jumped.
Jenna, down here!
and I see the bear cocks its head back again, looks down at me.
By being active, she might have interpreted that he was doing a circle around to get at the cubs.
Hell-bent on finishing them off, the bear charges down the mountain.
Never felt or seen anything as strong and fast in my life. It's one big piece of muscle. It was lifting me up nearly out of the bushes.
Bears will sometimes try to flip people over to get at their face when they're going after people.
It was like, I need to keep this animal with me, you know, away from Jenna, basically. Next thing I remember, falling around a good steep fall, I'd say 30 feet or something.
Johan's luck holds. He's cheated death once more. But by chance, Johan has landed on the same ledge as Jenna.
And then when I landed down, and here's that bear, it's still, you know, with me.
Trying to protect his daughter, Johan has brought the angry grizzly straight to her. Now the bear moves in for the kill. Johan Otter and his daughter Jenna have escaped a savage grizzly by throwing themselves off a mountain. Hot on their trail, the bear is going in for the kill.
The animal just wants to get rid of you, to neutralize you, to make you no threat to her cubs.
Jenna tries to hide, but Johan faces the predator head on.
But I just wanted to make sure it was, you know, away from Jenna.
Johan grabs for the nearest weapon, but it turns to dust.
And I still remember those two eyes, amber brown, looking straight into my eyes. No feelings.
Looking bears straight in the eye and continuing to look at them is generally aggressive.
And it really started chomping down on my arm. It was just ripping it apart.
We don't have the physical structure to stand up to even a friendly wrestling match with a bear, let alone when they're ticked off and a mom is feeling defensive about her cubs.
You have this helpless feeling of, I can't do anything, but you want to help, but you can't do anything.
The bear goes for the killer bite to his head.
It's going after a person just like it would another bear. They're aiming for the mouth and the face because they're trying to disable their opponent's weapons. That's their teeth, that's their jaws.
The grizzly's canines are about 2 inches long, made for gripping and tearing. The molars are flat for crushing and grinding.
It really felt like it was trying to rip my head up. And the tooth really went into my skull. I could feel this bone cracking. And I remember thinking, okay, one more bite and I'm done. And then I looked down and I'm like, oh, one more fall and I'm dead. But I also knew that if I would stay there, I would be dead.
Determined not to die, Johan breaks free and leaps into the void once again. A small rocky ledge saves him from certain death, 1,400 feet below.
And then I looked up, and the bear kind of was looking over the ledge, basically. I couldn't get to me. It was too steep, basically.
But the grizzly isn't done yet. It can still smell human flesh.
was just fear of being found, which you know is inevitable. I heard the bear breathing, and sort of like that stomach churning, like, oh no, kind of feeling. And I must have screamed.
Worst sound in the world. You've tried to keep this animal with you as long as possible to keep it away from your daughter, and still.
Jenna is trapped.
Its lower jaw was the one that ripped open my mouth, and the upper one was the one that grabbed on my neck. And my whole head was in its mouth. Okay, I'm dead. Get it over with.
This could be the end of the line for Jenna. Johan Otter has escaped a savage grizzly attack by jumping off a mountain. The bear has now turned on his 18-year-old daughter. Face to face with death, Jenna takes a huge gamble.
I just tried to be as still as possible so that it would think that I was dead.
The playing dead routine works if you can quit moving and if you can remain as silent as possible. That tells the bear, okay, this person is no longer a threat. You can leave.
Jenna keeps completely still and silent. Johan has no idea what is happening.
I don't hear anything anymore. I mean, it could mean one or two things. One, the animal left my daughter alone, or two, she's dead.
Johan doesn't dare make a sound. If the bear has gone, any noise might bring it back. He waits 2 agonizing minutes, then decides to take a chance.
Jenna?
That's probably the best feeling. I'm sorry. It's still get a little emotional.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Her voice was very strong, sounded very healthy.
Oh, I think I'm banged up pretty bad.
And it was going for my head, and then all I feel was just bone, 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 bone. Like, okay, I'm not gonna feel anymore. That's not good.
It's still too early for many hikers to be this far up the trail. Johan uses his nylon jacket to protect his exposed scalp. He needs urgent medical attention. Adrenaline triggered by the attack is draining away. He is going into shock.
I was getting a little woozy. I was just shaking. I was so cold.
Johan and Jenna's cries are finally heard by other hikers. 2 hours later, they're airlifted to the hospital. Johan's spine and neck are broken. His scalp needs a skin graft. He has 3 broken ribs, a broken nose, and a punctured eye. It takes 9 operations and many months for Johan to recover. Jenna also requires surgery and begins university wrapped in bandages.
Yeah, you kind of feel guilty in a way, you know, because you've taken your daughter into a dangerous area. Shouldn't have done that. That's when you get a little emotional, like, you know, shoot, I'm doing this to all these people. But I guess folks didn't care. They were happy I was still alive. So.
After the attack, experts agree the bear was acting naturally, trying to defend her cubs. They thought she posed no further danger to people, so she was not put down. For thousands of years, bears were America's supreme predators. From Alaska to Mexico, they were top of the food chain. Native Americans were in awe of their ferocious temper and huge strength. Some tribes worshiped bears. They wore their skin and claws as symbols of power. But killing a bear meant hunting in groups. It increased the chance of coming back alive. European settlers, however, were far less cautious. They saw bears as a dangerous pest that preyed on their livestock. Convinced their guns would protect them, they set out to kill as many as possible.
And this was the age of the homesteader. And for those people, if they lost a cow, if they lost a couple sheep, you know, it was a huge cost for them.
In the mid-1800s, prospectors pushed deeper into bear country, looking for gold. Scavenging bears soon learned that where there were people, there were food scraps. Very occasionally, bears also developed a taste for human flesh. Today, there are still freak incidents when bears see humans as prey. In the summer of 1997, Kelly McConnell's life was shattered when a black bear went on one of North America's most horrific bear rampages.
It was just trying to eat me.
Liard River Hot Springs, British Columbia, a popular place to relax and unwind. It's home to many black bears who feed on food scraps that people leave behind. In rare cases, they can take that terrible next step.
It's bears that have been both habituated to people and then food conditioned that have injured or preyed on people.
Like other bears in the park, this male feeds on human leftovers as well as plants and insects and the occasional young animal. An opportunistic predator, he's almost always hungry, a potentially dangerous situation.
When are we gonna go back to Paris?
Where are you gonna go back to Paris?
13-year-old Kelly McConnell and his mother, Patty, are moving from Texas to Alaska to start a new life. They're breaking the long trip with a well-earned rest.
We're just gonna relax after a long day of driving. We just wanted to go to the hot springs itself and relax.
Even though they know there are bears in the area, Kelly and his mother decide to explore the park.
And I actually did comment at that time, I wish that I could see one. And my mother corrected me and told me that I did not wish I would see one.
But Kelly and his mother have no idea of the danger they're in.
It's so rare. Are going to
The bear can smell prey, and it's closing in on them.
A predaceous attack, by and large, is a slow approach toward you, constant following of you, if you like, waiting for its tactical advantage to come in and get on you.
Okay, you know what? It's getting late. Come on, let's go. Kelly, come on.
Patty and Kelly have walked into a death trap. Frozen with fear, she has no idea what to do.
Kelly,
Hi, Mom.
there's a bear.
Yeah, right. I didn't believe what she was saying. She's always fooling around, and I didn't know what to believe.
Kelly. Kelly.
But it's no joke.
Don't move.
If it's not making any noise, if it's not making a commotion, and it starts coming at you, this bear's in a predatory mode, and you've got to start thinking about what can I do to defend myself.
The 400-pound beast viciously attacks Patty. Both she and Kelly are staring death in the face. This bear could rip them apart in seconds. In a nature park in British Columbia, 13-year-old Kelly McConnell has put his life on the line to save his mother from the jaws of a bear.
And I was screaming for help, and there was no one around. I felt so helpless.
The bloodthirsty beast tears into Patty.
It was trying to eat my mother.
Bears don't always completely kill their prey before eating it. They'll just start eating. And they do that with big game animals, and it's pretty well known that they do it with people too.
Kelly desperately tries to save his mother. But then, in a heartbeat, the bear turns on him.
I can just remember thinking, I hope that I saved my mother's life, but I remember thinking it was all a nightmare.
Kelly has become the beast's next meal. The bear locks its powerful jaws around his waist and lifts him off the ground.
I could feel the bones crunching in my body like I was pretty sure I was gonna die.
Kelly's about to pass out, but suddenly the animal drops him. He falls on his front, keeping his vital organs safe from the bear's teeth and claws.
It just began mauling me from the backside. It would just bite into my back and just tear my skin. It was eating me.
Kelly and his mom are so far from the hot springs, there's a danger no one will hear their screams. But one man does. Ray Kitchen, a truck driver, races to the scene and heroically takes on the man-eater himself.
This is an animal that's obsessively hungry, if not starving to death, and it may see other people that interfere as trying to take the carcass away from them.
The bear's reaction is explosive. It turns on Kitchen and begins to eat him alive.
Bears sometimes go into what they call surplus killing. They get into a herd of sheep, and it's so easy to kill them They just knock them over left and right, way more than they're ever going to be able to eat.
Kelly is too badly wounded to do anything to help. Kitchen is pinned beneath the raging animal. He can do nothing to stop it ripping him to pieces. Tony Dowd, a trucker from Alberta, hears Kitchen screaming and comes to help.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The bear was on Ray Kitchen, mauling him to death. And it stared at me. I was looking at it straight in the eyes. And I hit him dead square in the eyes. And its claws come up and just missed me because I jumped back.
Tony is lucky the bear doesn't go after him. Instead, it finally kills Ray Kitchen.
I heard Ray scream his last few, or try to scream, the last few thought or sounds that his voice could make. And I screamed, oh my God, and that was it.
Ray's throat has been ripped open.
They're getting the neck because they're going for the windpipe and for the vertebrae.
Kelly's wounds are so bad, he can't move. Patty is alive, but very weak.
She told me that I should take care of my sisters. And then she told me she loved me.
Patty loses consciousness. Other people are drawn by the shouts. They desperately try to keep the furious bear away from Kelly and his mom. Paramedic Ingrid Bailey joins the frantic rescue effort.
Mr. Kitchen was just flat out on the ground, missing a big chunk of his neck. And at that point, I stopped trying to do anything for Mr. Kitchen and went over and aided the other two folks who had already been attacked.
Ingrid does what she can, even though she could be next.
You gotta put pressure on those wounds.
The bear is only a few feet away. It could strike at any moment. The only way to end the carnage is by killing the bear.
Keep putting pressure on that wound.
But this vicious predator is not done yet with its bloody rampage. It has the taste for human flesh and wants more. A black bear has savagely attacked Patty and Kelly McConnell and killed the man who tried to help them. Now the bloodthirsty bear is on the rampage and heading towards the hot springs. There's panic. But running bodies trigger the bear's killer instinct.
The attraction of moving prey overrides the feeding. They'll feed later.
The massacre won't end until someone kills the crazed beast. Ingrid Bailey is still trying to revive Patty when the bear attacks another victim.
He caught up with a group of college students, and the last student in line slipped on the boardwalk, which was a little damp from a light rain, and the bear caught up with that person and mauled him as well.
Finally, someone arrives with a gun. The bear is shot dead.
Lots of pressure. He's losing a lot of blood.
But it's too late for Patty McConnell. She dies of her horrific injuries. Her 13-year-old son, Kelly, just manages to pull through.
Both my lungs were punctured. They said there was over 100 centimeters of stitches. I had suffered a few broken ribs. 3 of my vertebrae were broken.
An attack like this is very rare. 2 people are dead and 2 seriously injured. But incredibly, Kelly doesn't hate the animal that took his mother's life.
I feel like the bear, it didn't try to do anything that wasn't normal for it to do. I mean, normally bears don't attack people, and then probably had no choice but to attack or else die from starvation itself.
The horrific events at Liard Park show just how helpless we are when these predators turn on us. Without a gun, the death toll could have been much higher. Killing a bear in full attack mode is difficult, even with modern weapons. Back in the 1800s, it was much harder. As Michigan hunter and trapper Franklin Devereaux found out in 1883 when he tried to shoot a grizzly. In the time it took to reload his gun, the enraged bear charged and killed him.
Placing a headshot, unless the bear is immobile, is just about impossible. The skull is very hard. With a hammer, you'd have trouble breaking it.
In those days, bears were often only injured, and a wounded bear is extremely dangerous. It will stop at nothing to kill its attacker. The invention of the repeating rifle finally gave man the upper hand.
When we went from single-shot muskets to lever-action repeating rifles, that was a huge blow to grizzly bears. And it was both a combination of firepower, how fast you could shoot, and also the power of the weapon.
Hunting bears became a popular sport. They were killed in the thousands. Grizzly bear numbers plummeted, and today they are protected by law. But as more hunters and hikers venture into the last remaining wilderness, violent encounters still happen. And when an angry bear attacks, even a modern weapon may not save you. In the summer of 2001, Pastor Johnny McCoy found a gun wasn't enough to protect him from a furious grizzly, determined to see him dead.
And she was literally just trying to break my skull.
Pastor Johnny McCoy and church deacon Gary Coro are old friends who've been hunting together for years. They're on a 2-week hunting trip in the Alaskan wilderness.
We was going moose hunting to have the meat for the winter, or for the following year. That's what we eat. That's the food for the family.
They are well aware of the dangers lurking in the woods. While tracking their prey, they soon notice signs of grizzlies.
Makes me absolutely nervous walking through the woods, knowing that there are bear there, knowing that we are in their territory. Nearby?
This scat belongs to a female grizzly. She has cubs nearby. McCoy and Coral trek further into the bear's territory. Unlike hikers, they make as little noise as possible.
Hunters are probably more prone to bump into bears than other people because they're moving quietly.
Catch up to you. All right, I'll be up ahead.
McCoy takes a break. Coral presses on. Alone, he's much more likely to be attacked. Coral is walking quietly. The grizzly won't see or hear him until it's too late.
It was probably just out there with its cubs. All of a sudden, here's these people. So to Ma Grizzly, you see that as a threat.
McCoy, meanwhile, hurries to catch up with Coral. Suddenly, something tears out of the trees. It's racing towards Coral.
She ran right out within 10 feet in front of me. In my mind, I said, it's a bear.
McCoy can't shoot. He could hit Coral. By the time his friend hears a grizzly, it's too late.
And as I turned my head and looked around, all I could see was the mouth of a bear, and it was wide open. I just thought that the bear's gonna kill me. Today I'm gonna go be with the Lord.
At first, Coral's backpack shields him from the deadly claws.
The bear was just trying to get the pack out of the way to get it down.
I'm thinking my buddy is, my best friend is going to be killed. So I'm saying, God, what do I do?
But Coral doesn't panic. Incredibly, he pulls his gun out from under him and points it blindly over his shoulder.
It wasn't an easy thing to do. I squeezed the trigger and boom. It was instant relief.
But a second later, Coral hears a terrifying scream. Church Deacon Gary Coral has been attacked by a grizzly. He shot the bear, making it let go. Now the enraged beast turns on Coral's hunting buddy, Johnny McCoy.
When bears are injured during an attack, it seems that pain is a stimulus to attack harder.
McCoy reacts with lightning speed.
And I just took my gun, I thought, oh my goodness, and shoved it in her mouth.
The grizzly bites down.
When I shoved that gun in her mouth and pulled the trigger, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then she just swatted out of the way.
The grizzly leaps on McCoy with a vengeance, biting deep into his arm and shoulder.
And I've never heard any more agonizing screams of horror than the screams that I heard him put.
And first thing that she did was to bite and break my arms in 9 places.
A grizzly's jaws can exert over 750 pounds of force. It's like being hit by a sledgehammer. Coral can't shoot in case he hits McCoy. He can only watch as the bear tears his friend apart.
I could hear the bones crunching. I could actually hear them breaking. I seemed to even be able to hear the flesh being ripped off of these bones.
McCoy can't fight anymore. His arms are badly mauled. The grizzly now lunges for his head, the death blow.
And all I could smell was her breath. It was the most awful stench I've ever smelled in my life. And I thought, okay, you know, God, this is it. You know, Lord, I'm ready. This is it. And I just quit. I just quit.
McCoy's body goes limp.
And the bear turned around and looked at me.
Suddenly, the bear runs off.
I think in about 1 second, he must have covered 100 yards. He was clear out of sight. I never fired a shot. It was so quick.
McCoy is in bad shape.
I'd already resigned the fact that I was not gonna make it. I could have bled to death.
Johnny. Both his arms are badly injured. His scalp is shredded. His ear is torn off. One eye hangs from its socket.
Talk to me.
Coral must act quickly to save his friend.
Well, we had lots of game sacks. So I took the game sacks and put his scalp back on as good as I could and put his eyeball back in his head and stuffed his ear up in there and tied the game sacks on him. And when I got done, I looked at him and I thought, oh my, I thought, how am I ever going to get him to stand up?
McCoy can't see anything, and they've left their cell phone back at the camp. It takes the injured hunters 3 hours to get there. Eventually, they are airlifted to the hospital.
Emotionally, I'm still dealing with that. It's tough. If I'm under a lot of stress, my wife has to wake me up because I'm fighting with a bear all over again.
I woke up a few times at night thinking about this bear on my back. With the bear tearing him apart, and the bones crunching, sure, you don't ever forget that.
The grizzly bear was later found dead of the single gunshot wound. Thousands of people encounter bears every year, but attacks are unusual.
It's most likely one of two causes. One, it's a predatory incident, and that happens with both black bears and grizzly bears. And then the second thing is defense of personal space.
When bears do strike, it can have a profound and lasting effect on those who are lucky enough to survive.
In the blink of an instant, your life can completely be changed without you having any say in what happens. So you should just go out and live every day like it's your last day, because it might be. You just never know.
I will never, ever be the same again in a tremendous way. I don't take the wildlife for granted. I don't take grizzly bears for granted anymore.
This is the Great Bear Rainforest of Western Canada, and it's one of the last truly remote areas left on the planet. I've come here to find and photograph one of the world's largest land predators, the grizzly bear. A grizzly can weigh 4 times as much as the average man. It can run twice as fast as the average man. And the fact that it could kill you with one swipe of its paw should be enough to strike fear into the average man. It's a good job, then, that I'm not the average man. Because I'm not after just any old bear shot. I want to get as close as I can to these dangerous predators. Usually, these huge animals are shy and elusive. But there is one thing guaranteed to bring any carnivore out into the open: food.
It's easy to imagine a bear being a cute and cuddly animal, and I do want to get as close as possible to get some good photography done. But these are big, powerful animals. They have powerful claws. They have jaws that are so powerful they could bite through a man's arm. And I got to get really close and get some really good photographs, so this is not going to be an easy expedition.
So I've consulted with local experts. I've stocked up on all the necessary supplies.
I'm seeing straight away you've got bear spray there. Can I have 2 cans of those, please?
And I've chosen the perfect time of year when wild salmon are plentiful and the bears are drawn to the rivers. There's just one thing left to do: find the perfect place. Although bears can be found everywhere throughout this forest, to get the pictures I want, I need to travel far away from towns and people to where the bears have the salmon to themselves. But no road's going to take me there, so I'm looking for alternate transport. I'm heading north into the heart of the Great Bear Rainforest. As you can imagine from the name, the weather here is much, much wetter. Conditions can change from sunshine to showers seemingly in the blink of an eye. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for, but I'll know it when I find it. It's got to be a place miles from people, a place close to the coast where the helicopter can safely land, and near enough to a river that I can be sure I'm in the middle of bear country. Finally, we find a likely-looking spot. But the terrain is much rockier than it looked from the air. The pilot is worried, but tells me he's prepared to give it another go. Tentatively, we go back in. Well, that's it. The pilots agreed to pick me up from this exact same spot in 2 weeks' time. Until then, it's down to me and the bears. I have to say, I'm a little apprehensive. 2 weeks in a remote wilderness is a long time. The Great Bear Rainforest stretches up the western coast of Canada, from Vancouver Island to Alaska. It covers 70,000 square kilometers, and I'm slap bang in the middle of it. First, I need to dump my kit. Well, this seems like a pretty good place to put my camp. And I'm close to the coast. Shouldn't be too many bears coming through here. They're more likely on the rivers right now feeding on salmon. But you never know. Bears can be anywhere and everywhere. So I'm going to check around for any scat, any signs of bears being here recently. Because I'm going to have my camp here for a while. I'd rather be safe than sorry. If there is a bear here, I'd like to see him before he sees me.
Unlike almost every other creature I've photographed, this is an animal capable of hunting down a human. These woods are second nature to a bear, but here, I am well outside my area of expertise. My home is in southern Africa, where it's dry and hot. I'm much more comfortable in deserts. And I've spent most of my adult life photographing venomous reptiles.
Look at that hood. It's gorgeous. Wow.
This is something completely different.
That looks pretty good. No sign of bears having been here for a while. I think it's a perfect place to make my camp.
Still, there's no guarantee that a bear won't decide to wander through here whilst I'm asleep. So I'm doing all I can to protect myself. Supposedly, brightly colored tents can catch the attention of a curious bear. So I've gone for forest green. But it's not so much their eyesight I'm worried about. A grizzly bear has a sense of smell around 100 times more sensitive than ours. It can pick up faint aromas from almost 2 kilometers away, which means I have to get rid of any scent that might betray my presence.
You can never be too careful with bears. They're powerful animals with a powerful sense of smell. Now, I've brought all this excess food that I've got here about 100 yards from my camp to be safe. And even though I've got this stuff sealed in plastic bags, I still don't trust it because they might just pick up the scent. You've got to be careful with anything that's got any scent to it, even your toothpaste. All this stuff is pretty well sealed. Close it up in here. And the idea is to get it as high off the ground as possible and out of their reach.
This might seem over-elaborate, but I'm dealing with an intelligent and extremely large carnivore.
Just to give you an idea how big these bears can be, how big they can grow. I mean, I'm about 5'10". That means I can still reach higher. I can reach another 2 feet. So we're talking 6, 7 feet up there. But a grizzly can stand 8 feet tall. And then he can still reach further. He could reach 10 foot. I'm gonna have to take it up a couple more feet, get it right as far as I can up there. And hopefully he won't be able to reach that. I'll just tie this off here, and it's quite away from the base of the tree, so I'm hoping the bear can't reach, even if he goes up the tree.
But none of this means that I won't see a bear. In fact, I'm relying on it. So there's one more thing I need to check.
If I was unfortunate enough to be attacked by a bear while I'm here, I have only this one defense. It's a pungent spray made of peppers. But if I'm to rely on this, I better test it. And that's what this cardboard is for. Wow, look at that. What a concentrated spray. Oh, and it's quite pungent. I can pick it up from here. Whew. But it shows you how concentrated it is from that distance. That's about as far as I can be, and I'd have to be pretty accurate to get
Despite its potency, the spray is only going to work if the bear is close enough that I can hit it full in the face. And even then, I really need him to be breathing in with his mouth open. Quite a tall order. Although the spray is designed to repel bears, there's still the chance that the smell of it might arouse their curiosity. I take the cardboard away and burn it.
Satisfied that I've done all the bear proofing I can, I decide to investigate my surroundings. That's going to be my base camp for the next couple of weeks, which is great. It leaves me free to travel light. I've got everything sealed inside plastic containers, so they're basically waterproof. I've got my bear spray. A little bit of luck, I'll find a bear. Leaving my camp for the first time, I head straight for the nearby river mouth I saw from the air. Well, if I'm going to find bears, I'm going to have to find a salmon-rich river. And that shouldn't be a problem at this time of year, because all these rivers are teeming with salmon. Plenty of feeding going on here. But at the moment, I can't see any fish at all. There will be salmon in this river, but I'm not sure how far they will have gone upstream. I start off after them, but soon spot something else of interest. Holy mackerel. This is an ice cave, man. It's an ice cave. It looks like all this ice, maybe through the winter months, had gathered up here in the rocks and just tumbled down and piled up here. And even though it's sunny now and very warm, I can actually see how it's dripping. It's melting off. I have to go in, but I want to take a very careful, slow look. God, it's fantastic. I've never seen anything like this in my life. This is like a miniature glacier. And it probably was like a little glacier, but look on the edge how thin it is. It's melting. It almost looks like it could fall at any time. And I'm not too keen on being inside caves. But I do see some light at the back, so I'm going to go a bit in. Glaciers have shaped this whole landscape of dramatic mountains and flat-bottomed valleys. But to find such a big piece of ice on the valley floor in autumn is quite something. Fascinating place. You know what? This chunk of ice is lying here. It's obviously fallen down. This stuff is melting like wildfire. Come out of here. There's no doubt that this is an amazing landscape. But I get back to searching for fish. Fortunately, it's not long before I find what I'm looking for. Just look at this. There's salmon everywhere. As far as the eye can see, there's just salmon, and they're all moving, and the water's so shallow, you feel like you can just pick them out. No wonder the bears come and feed here. Look at them all sticking out the top here. This is exactly what I've been wanting. This is exactly the place. This is going to draw bears like you cannot believe, and I'm going to get my shot here. This is one of the world's greatest animal migrations. Every year, between August and October, millions of salmon swim upstream from the sea to breed. The urge to spawn is so great that some fish will travel thousands of kilometers in search of the place where they themselves were born. Once there, each female lays thousands of eggs, which are fertilized by a single male. My plan is to follow them upriver to where there's the greatest concentration of fish. But I don't get that far. You hear that? I heard something. It sounds like, almost like a growl, two growls. I'm not sure. There's something in there, something in there. This is all new territory to me. I'm not sure about what I'm up against. I don't know what to expect from a bear. I don't think bears actually growl at you. But I heard something. Something's going on there. Yeah, listen, I can hear sticks cracking. Is something here. There's definitely something here. Yeah. This is typical bear track. Recent as well. Just been squashed down. Bear's been through here. Big bears, I imagine.
Look at this complete trail. It's the problem in a situation like this. The animal could be right here. It could be right here. I wouldn't see him.
Already I'm feeling completely out of my depth.
I see something.
It's a grizzly, right in front of me.
He seems to be coming to this pool. I see salmon jumping in the pool. Maybe this is his fishing spot. I'd like to go a little bit closer. He's actually coming over the... He's crossing on that log, coming towards me now. I don't know how far I can push this, how close I can be. He keeps looking back. He's totally aware I'm here. And I don't want to disturb him in any way.
Even so, I want to get as close as I can.
This is the closest I've ever been to a bear. This guy just popped out of the forest. Look at all the salmon over here. And he just walked straight down that log and he's looking at the salmon. He obviously wants to fish here. If I was this close and he was showing any sign of aggression, I'd be out of here like a shot. That's fantastic to watch that right so close. He's just 20 meters from me and I'm standing right here. If he decides to come this way, some of these salmon that are jumping right here, then I better back off.
Unfortunately for me, at that very moment, he seems to notice them.
I think he's thinking about it. He's gonna come into this pool right here, man. Holy mackerel. He's got his eye on the salmon, but I'm right at his side. Just 10 meters.
That's already closer than I would like him to be. He could cover that distance in less than 3 seconds, which is much, much quicker than I could get away.
Look at this boy. He's thinking about coming over. This is not good. To come over this way, and I think I better start back because obviously the good fish are on this side. I need to make myself really small.
If I keep myself small, he might just stay focused on the fish.
Jump, fish, jump. This is as close as I want to get to this boy. Nose on here.
I'm okay. He's going past.
Wow, I tell you, that makes you something when he's looking straight at you and he's coming straight towards you, but you got a fish right in front of you and he wants the bloody fish. I mean, you know, I do a lot of wildlife stuff, but a bear, so close, 5 meters from me, coming straight towards me, a grizzly. But he's a well-behaved boy. He's just trying to fish. He's not hunting me in any way, thank goodness. I'm so used to traveling around the world finding snakes and taking photos of them, you know? But the difference is with a snake, I can grab the snake, I can pick him up, I can maneuver him, I can handle it, I can keep control. What I do with a grizzly, I can't pick up the grizzly. If anything's gonna get picked up, it's gonna be me. I was so nervous. I didn't even think about photography. I'm just thinking about, is this guy coming for me or not? But he's still hanging around, so I'll try and get some pictures.
can see now that this is quite a young bear, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I don't know if this is his first salmon run on his own, but he's certainly got an interesting fishing technique.
He comes down the river a little way. Then he charges up the river and chases all the salmon to the logs. Then he goes and looks for them under the logs. But he hasn't actually caught anything in front of me yet. If that's inexperienced, I don't know, but he's trying. It does somehow make you think of a puppy dog, you know? The way he acts. He's like unsure of himself, a little bit clumsy. He has a splash on one side, and he goes for that splash. Then he has another splash, and he goes for that. So he's not got his system worked out that well yet. Actually sticks his whole face and his hands and everything into there. It's fantastic.
Even though this is not the fully grown adult I'm after, it's still my first bear. So I spend the next 40 minutes waiting to see if he actually catches anything. But eventually he gives up, and so do I. With the rain now hurtling down and dusk closing in, I make my way back to camp to try and get myself dry. I'm going to need a fire, and there's a real knack to getting one going in the wet.
This is what I'm looking for. See, this tree's been damaged probably years ago, and it's running sap. You can see the sap running there, and it gathers over here. And some of it, if you dig it out,
Oh, solid piece, very sticky resin. This will burn even in the wet. That's what I need to make my fire with. It's a lot of work making a fire over here, but it's so important. My clothes are wet and I've got to get some dry stuff. Next step, cut up some kindling. This stuff's quite dry, and if I put that on top of the resin, maybe I can get this fire going, and then I can add bigger wood later. That's probably enough. Now's the moment of truth. See if the stuff will actually burn. Waterproof matches, everything you need. A fire won't do anything to repel bears, but fortunately it won't attract them either, as long as I don't cook anything on it. Just keep going, there we are. Just starting to catch on the resin, that's what I need. There we go, it's catching nicely, it's catching nicely. You can actually hear the resin splattering away. And then when it starts going, it goes well and fast. Slowly start adding bigger wood, but I think it's gonna go strong. Then I can hang up a bit of washing and dry my clothes. This feels really good now, it's getting there. I get my socks drying, but it's hard to find the courage to take off the rest of my wet things. I just have to hope the weather changes tomorrow. It does. It's worse. You don't need me to tell you that these are not the ideal conditions for photography. But I do have to keep tabs on the bears. Reluctantly, I take a scouting trip out to the log jam where I saw the juvenile bear yesterday.
Look at this over here. Oh, man. Look at the size of the salmon, and look how clear these claw marks are. The claw marks have gone right in there. He's pulled the salmon out just like that, probably one shot. Fantastic. But there's more salmon pieces everywhere here. This whole place is stamped down. There's like bears walking all over the place. Scattered pieces of salmon everywhere. It's like carnage over here.
This definitely isn't the work of one juvenile, especially a juvenile that yesterday couldn't even catch a fish. There are big grizzlies here, somewhere. So, despite the rain, I go back to camp and get my kit. I need to stake this place out.
it's freezing. It's so hard to sit still and wait, but it's the only thing I can try and do. I'm hoping that bears, if I'm still and quiet enough, that bears may approach me eventually. At least when I'm chasing snakes, which is what I more usually do, I know sort of where to go, and I'm physically active. I can look under things and pull over rocks, and I'm in right areas. And generally snakes are in warm places. That makes a difference. These bears don't seem to mind under what conditions we're living over here. They can handle it. They've got thick coats and they don't mind the rain. This is something completely different. Right out of my ball game, I tell you. I'm freezing my butt off. I sit there all day, but I see no sign of a bear. The next 3 days are relentless. The rain continues to fall. But with the weather like this and with the feelings I've got inside right now, I could just give it up. I don't know if I'm going to make it. This is really difficult. It's the wettest, hardest conditions I've ever been in. I get the occasional glimpse of a bear, but everything is against me. The wind, the rain, the river, and the light. I haven't had my camera out of its bag for days. I know the dangers of a wild bear attack, but at the moment, I'm more likely to die from hypothermia and boredom. Yet even when I get back to camp, exhausted, I can't afford to switch off. Just checking my equipment before I go to bed. I've got my torch and it's working fine. And I've got my knife right next to me here. And I've spoken to a lot of people and they all say the same thing. If you're going to sleep at night in your tent in bear country, have these two items right next to the bed with you at all times. If you do hear a noise outside, you want the torch so you can just check, is it a bear, is it not a bear? The knife, because if it is a bear, not to defend yourself, cut a hole through the back and get your way out. Let's hope I don't have to use them. And so the days drag by. Until on the morning of day 12, some unexpected sunshine fills me with a renewed sense of optimism. I get up early to check whether my cameras are still working after their long layoff. I've been keeping all my equipment in plastic bags with silica gel, just to try and avoid as much moisture as possible. Yeah, that looks good. I've been thinking during the night, I want to go back to the river where I was yesterday. I know there's bears there. This time, I'm going to get my shot. Unfortunately, the respite from the rain is all too brief. Nevertheless, it seems my luck has changed. It's another grizzly, and this is a big one. He's a fair way away, but these bears are such good swimmers, he could be across this wide river in less than 30 seconds.
You always feel this nervous tension when you're getting this close to a big wild animal like a grizzly.
But there's a couple of signs you always got to watch for. You know, if he's starting to get aggressive, there's a few things that will give it away, especially if they stare at you directly and they flatten their ears, something like a dog would do. And if he came for me, I don't know what I'd do. I can't outrun it. I definitely can't outswim it. So there's only one thing, the best advice I've been given is to drop dead. Play dead immediately. If you've got your pack on your back or something, cover yourself up and hope the grizzly will just fool with you a bit and move on. At the moment, I can see this guy's concentrating on looking into the water. He's definitely trying to catch fish. But he does look up and down this way every now and then, so I've got to watch out. Watch him go, watch him go. Chasing the salmon up there, look. He's having a ball in that pool there. Watch him shaking off. That's fantastic.
If only I could get a shot of this, but he's so far off. Just look at that poise and power. This is one incredible animal.
This bear's fantastic. He's an experienced fisher. You can just see the confidence in him. This is not a young bear. He knows exactly what he's doing and he's going for it.
Unlike the young bear I saw before, he's not chasing every fish he sees. He bides his time, waiting for just the right moment.
Let him go. Watch him go for that fish. Gosh, he's got one. Look at the size of the salmon he's got. Do you see it? It's fantastic. That's a big fish, I'll tell you. He grabs it right out of the water, monstrous salmon like this. And he's pulling on that fish like that. You can clearly see the hump on his shoulders. This is the first sign you look for to identify the bear. Grizzly's got the big hump on his shoulders. This is where the muscles are that allow him to grab onto stuff, to dig and to hold onto prey. Very powerful animal.
This is such a great bear. I'd like to get round to the opposite bank for a photo.
I'm just wondering if he's going to hunt for more, if this is it for the day.
If he stays for a while, then it might be worthwhile trying to get across. He seems pretty settled. I decide to risk it. There were no obvious crossing places back the way I came, so I make my way upstream. But I've only just got around the next bend when I hit a small problem. There's no way I can cross under this thing. And it would be suicidal to try and go up it. I've got two choices. I go back or I go round. I decide to chance my luck.
Trying to find my way through, but I've got a whole wall of waterfalls here, a massive waterfall over here and smaller waterfalls over here. It's pretty obvious I'm going to have to find a way inland. You know, this forest is unbelievable. It's the most pristine forest I've ever experienced in my life. It's also the most rugged terrain I've ever come across. This has never been logged before. This has been here forever. The only way I'm going to get around this is to find a way inland.
Apart from setting up my camp, this is the first time I've ventured into the forest, and for good reason. After an hour of scrambling over rocks and moss, I'm starting to feel the strain.
I tell you, this forest is all but impenetrable. Every step is dangerous. It's slippery, and it's wet wherever you go. On top of that, it's cold, in spite of the fact that I'm walking all the time, moving around, climbing,
It's icy cold in here. Gotta put on another layer at least. I seem to be heading miles out of my way. I can no longer hear the waterfall or the river below. But I do hear something. This guy. Oh, listen to him talk. Are you talking to me? Say that again. What did you say? He says, let go, you bully. Let go, you bully. Listen to that. Isn't that wonderful? Jesus, he says, let go. I don't want to go with you. That's the Canadian western toad. Isn't he gorgeous? I mean, a lot of people don't like toads, but I think they're wonderful. And they get quite big. Sometimes they get maybe twice this size. Yes, yes. That's true, eh? It's exactly what I'm saying. Exactly. And they're quite prolific. You find them all over the place. And they actually go all the way down south, right into California, into the United States. Yeah, listen to them. They're very vocal, as you can hear. Of course, like all toads all over the world, they've got poison glands in their skin, which you can actually see over here. And that's purely a self-defense mechanism. So in other words, if an animal of any description tried to grab this toad, bite onto it with its mouth, it immediately squeezes that poison out through its skin. And it goes into the animal's mouth and it's absorbed and it's very bitter and it causes him to salivate. So he quickly spits the toad out. Okay, yeah, okay, I'm just having a little talk here, relax. What a wonderful sound. See how his mouth is working? Look how it's working over there. I've never seen one that's so talkative. There's one predator that can feed on these toads that's not affected by the poison, and that's the garter snake. And you get a number of different species of garter snake in Canada, and they will eat these toads. They seem to have evolved with these toads, and they've developed a high resistance to the poison that these toads will secrete through their skin. So they would actually swallow them down with little or no effect at all, whereas other animals will definitely have a problem. Yeah? Yeah, okay then. Oh, it's so lovely. Look at that. Look at his face. It's like a car idling on the highway. Look how long those legs are. Look at his flippers at the back here. Look at that, eh? Incredible. They've got claws right on the end. Tiny little claws. Right on the end there. Okay, we're going to let him go. He's been such a sweet boy, eh? Yes, you go. Sit down. Put your back in there where you were. There we go. He's probably going to tuck himself away over there and hide away for a little while. Nice little find there. Nice little find. Beautiful. And then I spot something else. Look at that. You know what that is? That's a huckleberry. And when bears haven't got plenty of salmon as they have at the moment, a large part of their diet is formed by these huckleberries. Can you imagine how many he would have to eat to satisfy that bulk? The grizzlies normally live up in these hills. It's only the salmon run that entices them away. But there are still plenty of signs of their presence. Just look at this. I see this every now and then on trees as I'm moving along. Obviously, a bear's raked his claws over here. What's fantastic is that the claws go right through the bark. No effort at all. Such power they're using. Nobody seems to know exactly why they're doing it. Maybe sharpening his claws, or maybe just showing that he's around, showing other bears he is around, marking territory, so to speak. Luckily, these ones are fairly old. It seems that at last I'm heading away from the hillside. This dry riverbed should take me down to the valley floor. But it's taken so long that I've given up any hope of my bear still being there. Just as well, because when I finally emerge from the forest, I seem to be in a completely different valley altogether. As soon as I step out, it feels like I've entered the lost world of the grizzlies. Everywhere I look, there are bears. I'm completely surrounded. And I've no idea how many more there might be in the long grass. But this is the perfect opportunity to get my photographs at last.
I can see movement, and it's definitely a grizzly. And it looks like it's got a cub. Oh man, now I've got to be really careful. One of the most dangerous situations you can get yourself into is getting between a mother and her cub. But at this time, it looks okay. I don't know, yeah, I got the wind in my favor. Okay, this bear's looking straight at me now. One of the things they told me is don't look into a bear's eyes, but I'm still quite a way away, and I know bears haven't got wonderful eyesight, but they've got fantastic smell. I definitely don't want this female to think that I'm threatening her cub in any way. She seems quite at ease, but I can see her so clearly. She was looking directly at me. Man, that's fantastic. I'm so close. I'm so close. She's looking more settled. Oh man, when you see them like that, you feel like you want to go up and pet them. That's the thing you got to watch out for. Bears look cute and cuddly, but of course these things are very, very dangerous. Don't get on the wrong side of a bear. Oh, the cub is also up now. Oh man, the cub is actually suckling on the mother. That is fantastic.
Usually, bear cubs stay with their mothers for the first 2.5 years. Up until then, they are inseparable. So as the cub ventures into the water, mother stays alongside. And I get the photo opportunity I've been waiting for.
I just caught a fish. Now, the mother's quite aware where her cub is, and she's making sure that there's no danger to her cub.
This is more than I could have hoped for. Really wonderful grizzly behavior. But as the bears come back out of the water, I realize just how exposed I am.
This bear's coming straight towards me. One is in the water, the other one's coming out straight in front of me. Look at the size of this thing when it gets close to you. Look how it looks at me. It knows I'm here. It's also testing me. It's giving me the eye. And it's moving towards me again. I don't know what to do. I can only slowly back away. This bear is coming directly where I am. This bear is totally aware of me being here, but it's not showing sign of aggression, but I mustn't make any mistakes. They are so close. I'm not sure what to do, because the other one's going to follow as well.
Sure enough, the cub is right behind. I just have to hope that it too goes straight past me.
I've got nowhere to go but stand. Lifting her nose like she can smell me now. Come directly straight towards me along the edge of the water. It makes your heart race. You cannot believe it. I'm not too happy about this at all. She's starting to cut across towards the grass. If she'll just go around me and not towards me, I'd be much happier.
I do the only thing I can. I stand my ground. But all my instincts are urging me to run. Luckily, the bear moves off first.
There she goes. Now my heart's really pumping. My legs are shaking, never mind that. Hell, if I don't go to the toilet soon, I've had it.
As the mother and cub move away, the adrenaline turns to elation.
Can you believe what I've just done? I mean, this is what I wanted. I wanted to get as close as possible to a grizzly bear. But I couldn't believe this. This animal was 4 or 5 meters in front of me. And the trouble was, I had nowhere to go. At that point, there was no more choice. I had to just be there. But when she stood up and looked straight at me, she was taller than me. I couldn't believe it. You feel like you want to run. You feel like you must run. But they've told me the best thing I can do is keep dead still, and I did keep dead still. And then she seemed to look at me and sort of discard me, and off she went again. Man, that got me going. That was just adrenaline, nothing else. I actually did it. I got right within virtually touching distance of a cub and a mother. I cannot believe this. This is the ultimate. I've done it.
Flushed with success, I set about getting as many pictures as possible. Walking out of this hidden bear valley, I'm secure in the knowledge that once again, I got my shots.
This has been one of my most difficult trips, but it's been really well worth it. I got closer to grizzly bears than I ever thought possible. Now I'm on the right beach, it's more or less the right time. Got my signal fire. I'm just hoping my helicopter remembers to fetch me.
Thank you.